Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for joining our webinar this afternoon. It's my job to introduce the project to everybody and to introduce our speakers as well. I'm sure most of you know a lot about TInnGO already, so this particular session will be quite short and just give you a brief overview of what we're doing and why we're doing it. So the webinar program is, firstly, I start introducing it, and then Hilda, who is the third speaker, third image on the right-hand side, will be discussing gender smart mobility, the conceptual framework, implementation and findings. Hilda is from the University of Copenhagen, and she is also the scientific lead and our gender expert on the project. Then we'll have two demonstrations, firstly by Claire from LGI, who is an outreach designer from LGI, and this will be followed by the TInnGO Open Data Repository demonstration from Fotis Leotopoulos from Espoing in Greece. There will be a moderated question answer or wrap-up session at the end of this around 4:15 UK time. I'd also like to thank Claire very much and all my speakers as well for all the hard work they've put into this, and also Kathleen for her support in setting this up. So the webinar objectives are firstly to explain the conceptual approach underlying TInnGO, and this is based on the central concept of gender smart mobility, and then to look at two of our initiatives, our online resources, the European Observatory for Gender Smart Mobility and the Open Gender Data Repository. What we want to do is invite contributions to these, show you what we're trying to do. This is very much a work in progress, and we're relying on the community to actually buy into what we're trying to do and add resources for us as well. Hopefully the target audience, and we will see from the poll who has actually joined us for this, are policymakers involved in the definition of mobility plans at local, regional, national and European level, experts from universities and research centres, journalists in gender and transport who actually want to find out what is going on, what are best practices, what's happening in the field at the moment, and any activists or anyone else wishing to narrow gender gaps in STEM, education and transport equity. And these are the target audiences not only for this webinar, but also for the whole project. So who is TInnGO? First of all, this is us a few years back when we last met up in Copenhagen. We're distributed across the EU, from Sweden down to Greece, Italy and Spain, across from Romania over to the United Kingdom. And we're comprised of SMEs, consultants, research institutes and educational establishments, and also local authorities as well. The organisational structure looks a little bit complex. What we're trying to do today is show the TInnGO Observatory, so the central part of this slide. The TInnGO Observatory is composed of a data repository, a set of hub pages, resources, which might be tools and methods and also training material, an open innovation platform, which is basically where we share ideas and design outputs, and links to other resources from the EU and elsewhere. We'll be demonstrating all this central part in the meeting today. This is fed by 10 hubs across Europe, from Romania and the Baltic states, France, Sweden and Denmark, Germany, the UK, Portugal, Spain, Italy and Greece. Each of these was set up as a slightly independent hub, which would actually feed into the central observatory. They were supposed to be operating in real life. We've had to move a lot of them to virtual entities, which has actually had quite an effect on the project. So what the hubs try and do is look at citizen science and engagement, really get people excited about discussing smart mobility, what transport needs to them, and how it affects their lives. In particular, we were looking at women and those who are less represented in transport discourses. So the LGBTQI plus community, BAME communities, maybe older people, women with children. Anyone who isn't part of the discussion, but whose lives are centrally affected by transport provision. We're doing this by a series of initiatives run by each of the hubs based around their local needs. This has moved online now, and we are trying to involve citizens in discussions with us about what their needs are, what they feel about transport, what their problems are. The hubs also act as beacons of engagement, activity and know-how. So in terms of this, what we're looking at doing is providing the hubs with a set of generic resources where they can go off into industry or organisations and try and implement gender and diversity action plans, look at the organisational structures of transport providers and say, well, are you thinking about your women employees? What can you do to look after them better, to start implementing plans to actually change your organisation? The other part of the hubs is also in terms of data collection. So the TInnGO Observatory needs to be fed by data. As you know, we do not have a lot of sex disaggregated data at the moment, so it's the hub's responsibility to go off and collect that data. And Fotis will be talking more about this, and probably Hilda as well, in terms of the information that we've already got. How does this work in practice? Well, these are a list of our hubs and what they started off thinking that they were going to be doing within the project. Obviously, this has changed a little bit, but you can see each one has a specific specialisation, and this is based on their local needs or the local interests, expertise within that hub. If we look more closely at my own hub, which is the UK hub, we were interested in women from the BAME community and also rural women and what their needs were. So that was our socioeconomic group that we were quite interested in. And as I'm part of a university and part of a design department, we're also looking at smart transport. So that's our area of focus. We have cross-research responsibilities within the project. So we have to conduct a mobility survey where we're looking at the mobility experience of people in and around transition out of COVID. We're also trying to implement, get out the gender and diversity action plans with local organisations so they can understand more about gender and diversity and how that can play out amongst their departments. We've also been interviewing female entrepreneurs, and I've been conducting an educational survey where we can see what the barriers to women have been in universities and research establishments. And our role in the project is also as design provocateurs. So we've engaged a series of undergraduate designers who take ideas from the hubs and actually start visualising them. And here you can see some of our designs. These are not final concept designs. They're there to engage people in a visual discussion and try and understand more about specific needs of people in terms of mobility. So we are looking at the design of a tricycle for the UK. Tricycles are very much liked across Europe. In the UK, there is not a market for them. So how can design entice the UK public to actually use tricycles more? We develop storyboards, look at the design of bus stops and seating to stop harassment. So I'm sure Claire will be talking more about how you can get involved in this through the Open Innovation Platform. It seems a bit of a messy project maybe, but what we believe is the whole is not the same as the sum of its parts. So what the TInnGO approach does is enable us to look at many aspects of gender and diversity inequality in different countries from different perspectives and across different sectors of the transport business ecosystem. So service operators, STEM, employees as well. And what we want to do is provide guidelines, data and methods for change at a pan-European, local and sectorial level. What we also want to do is increase levels of participation and conversations about future mobility. Let's not leave it to the planners, but let's get real people involved in this conversation. And this has always been difficult, but we think that if we can use design, drawings, design language, maybe we can entice more people into that conversation and raise awareness of smart mobility.
2 minutes left.
Okay, thank you. So a core concept which Hilda will be talking about more is in terms of smart transport and gender and diversity mainstreaming. To us, this equals gender smart mobility. And what we want to do is create a long-lasting legacy whereby we can shift the argument. Because smart mobility has shifted its emphasis away from movement and vehicles, now transport seen as an enabler, we still have a lot of technology push, but we need to insert a wider vision of inclusion into that. And what we're seeing is smart mobility is replicating previous shortcomings with respect to lack of gender and diversity. Although there's evidence that gender mainstreaming tools are really effective, there's not been much uptake of them. And smart city agendas now provide us an opportunity to create more equitable societies. We're going to achieve this by developing new approaches and methods to data collection, a cross-sectoral vision taking into account mobility, education, employment, create mechanisms to create awareness of the lack of gender and diversity mainstreaming, and provide compelling arguments for evidence-based smart mobility. And today we're talking about the role of the Transport Innovation Gender Observatory and the Open Data Repository in enabling this. So we need a paradigm shift because there's new concepts around gender transport poverty, intersectionality, and agency. These aren't finding their ways into discourses at operational level, so we need to drive this forward. There's a resistance to acknowledge the problem of gender and diversity at national organisational levels, which we're finding out when we're going off and interviewing people. And the same problems keep occurring in different parts of the transport sector, whether you're in education or in industry, in terms of gender pay gaps, discriminatory work practices, and lack of workforce diversity. This requires very much a paradigm change, not just collecting more data, although there is a lack of gender disaggregated data and a pooling of that. So what we want to do is try and provide a one-stop shop across the community where this can be centralised and evidenced. And this is where the observatory and the repository fit in. We want to fill the gaps in current provision by providing an accessible one-stop shop for knowledge, information and data sharing, a platform that encourages citizen engagement and starts thinking about transport problems in new ways using more designerly approaches. And that is all I have to say, and I will now pass you over to our scientific lead, Hilda. Thank you.
Well, before we switch over to Hilda, we just would like to do a short poll because now you know who we are, but we don't really know who you are. So that's why I just have a short question for you and would launch a polling and would ask you kindly to, you should see it now, to participate so that we can gain an overview in which areas you're working. I leave you 10 more seconds. Okay, a lot is happening, I can see here. And I'm ending the poll right now. So I hope everyone had the chance to participate. And I will just share the results with you. I hope you can see it now. So, okay, wow, it's pretty equal. So we have some of national authority, local authority too, but no decision makers, local from city councils. Okay, maybe next time, hope so. Mostly academics, citizens also, great. That's also good for Q&A afterwards. And others. Okay, maybe at the end of the meeting, we can also talk what others are, just to gain a better overview of our target group for the observatory. So who else is interested in? So that would be great. Okay, well, thank you very much. And then I will leave the floor to Hilda. Hilda, I share your presentation. Give me a second. And then we can start. So Hilda is from the Copenhagen University, Hilda Roma Christensen, and her presentation. Just a moment. I have technical problems. That's bad. There we go. I hope you can already see it.
Could you please remove the poll?
I already removed it. I ended.
It's in.
I'm sorry.
Wait a minute. Okay.
It should. Okay. And
yeah.
There's your presentation, and Hilda talks about gender smart mobility, the conceptual framework, implementation, and findings. Hilda, the floor is yours.
Thanks a lot for the introduction, and welcome to all of you. It's very exciting to have such a broad and mixed group, and I hope I can meet the ambition here of introducing you to a couple of the core concepts of the TInnGO project. Next, please. As we already have heard from Andrea Woodcock, the TInnGO project is a very broad project which looks into which looks into and connects both topics and methods and policies in new ways. And since Andrea already talked a lot about that, I think I'll just move on and dive into the core, several of the core concepts. As said, gender smart mobility forms one of the core concepts of the TInnGO project. It's a composite concept that links the smart transport, smart city discourses with gender and diversity mainstreaming, which have been long-standing aims and goals of European equality policies and strategies. Also, the TInnGO project deals with and tries to practice intersectional analysis, and I'll return back to this concept or idea and practice of intersectional analysis, which means that, for example, women cannot stand alone, but will all has to be contextualized. The social and the socio-cultural categories that we are dealing with, whether women, men, ethnic minorities, etc., they have to be contextualized, and I will show you in a minute how we do that. And the third core issue we are dealing with is the gender and diversity action plans, which presents a kind of implementation of gender smart mobility and intersectional analysis. And please move to the next slide, please. We have transposed this idea of gender smart mobility into gender smart indicators. And the gender smart indicators implies that new smart transport modes should be attractive, affordable, effective, sustainable, climate friendly, and inclusive. And we try to apply these indicators across several modalities, be it e-cars or smart cars, public transport, shared bikes, or rollers and walking. And I would say that walking is an important way of moving around in many settings, but it's totally ignored in transport data collections. But anyway, we try to apply these indicators to various modalities and also across modalities. Next, please. And also these gender smart indicators, attractive, affordable, effective, sustainable, and inclusive, are connected to or intersecting with these various socio-cultural categories, be it age, be it gender, be it ability or disability, be it nationality, locality. You could add to them class and ethnicity. This, of course, I mean, working with indicators, working with socio-cultural differences, working with various modalities also makes up a rather complicated approach to dealing with gender, with smart mobility. But it's really the ambition of the TInnGO project to work up these complexities in various contexts, as we do in the hubs, as we do also in more cross-cutting analysis. Next, please. And one way of looking, or one way of working with intersectional analysis and gender smart mobility, one way of trying to change mindsets and priorities could be to look at this crossroad. And if we here consider this physical encounter at this crossroad, we have a white middle-class businessman in a smart car, a black woman on a bike, an older man with his roller. We can talk about how many categories are at stake here: gender, age, ethnicity, etc. And how does the crossroad and its users create biased mental images of highways, byways, and no ways? Meaning, who is often added the privileged and who are often left behind. And I mean, the whole idea, as Andrea also presented it, is to try to change mindsets and practices and policies. Yeah. Next, please. And here we have another mind-setting or mind-changing picture of all the people who are left behind the smart mobility here in the city center of Copenhagen, the rollers, the parents with the kids, etc., etc. And the idea of the TInnGO project is also to try to put these groups, often called vulnerable groups, put them at the center of city transport and smart transport planning, instead of starting with the smart cars, as we often do. Next, please.
5 minutes left.
Next, please. Yeah, and all in all, and also repeating a bit at a more general level what Andrea already said, the TInnGO project aims at a paradigm shift. And we can say both because we have some shortcomings in the existing transport system, and because we want to improve it and make it better and change it. So we can say that we want to move from the car-centric transport planning to multimodal planning, including non-motorized mobility. We also want to move from the universal ideas of passengers, drivers, and users, which we often see in data collections, into data collection based on multi-stakeholders, taking into consideration gender, ethnicity, age, sexuality, and that one could add more categories. We would also want to move from the rational choice, free choice horizons, which also guides a lot of transport planning and policies, into look at the restricted choices and the transport poverty, and asking who, choice for whom, and also to widen the platform of choices for to include everybody in principle. We also want to move away from the solely quantitative modeling and one-size-fits-all data and modeling principles into more mixed methods modeling and agent-based modeling. And the TInnGO project is providing a range of these agent-based modeling examples. We also want to move away from the technological fix, the idea that technology can solve all the problems that has been created by technology, and also to have a more moderate and more more user-friendly or more user-involving technological development, and also to ask who is it good for, who is taking up, who uses these technologies. And then we need to, or we want to move away from this very restricted look at behavior, and also looking at what's going on in transport right now as the basis for transport in the future, and to create the basis for more visions and forward-looking things, for example, in the design examples which were presented. I think my time is running out, Kathleen. Am I not right about that?
1 more minute.
Yeah. Try to scroll, because I mean, I would have liked to just show you some examples. Here we have the use of the TInnGO indicators in inclusive design models. We have worked up a toolbox with best practices, also finding a lot of limitations to what's going on right now. Next, please. And we have worked up these TInnGO GADAP plans, for example, in Paris, which is also guided by these TInnGO indicators. And next, please. And we are conducting a cross-national survey across these 10 hubs in Europe, where we also apply indicators. They have guided the setup of this survey, and we would like to approach also both local, national, and also European authorities about these, trying to encourage them to change their principles of data collection when it comes to transport and mobility. And you will hear much more about this now from my colleagues, Claire and Fotos. Thanks a lot.
Okay, thank you very much, Hilda, for your presentation. Before we start with Claire's presentation, another poll. Now you know where we are working from which countries, and what indicators we're talking about. So we thought it would be a nice idea if you would also tell us where you're coming from. And I will share another poll with you. And please participate. You have 30 seconds to do so. I hope you can see it. Okay, thank you very much. Nothing happens anymore, so I think we're done. I'm ending the poll, and of course also share with you the results as I did before. I hope you can see it now, and as it's shown, it's mostly Europe, which fits perfectly to our hubs for the moment, and also others, which would also be interesting for us to know what other countries. So maybe in the Q&A round we can talk about it. I would like to ask another question, and the third poll. I hope you're also willing to participate. You can see it now. If you don't want to answer, then just check prefer not to answer.
Hello.
Okay, I leave you 10 more seconds, and then we are already done. Okay, nothing happens now. I end the poll and sharing the results with you. Okay, interesting. There are more women than men today, and I hope we can give you some a good insight in our observatory and help you to find the right information that you need for your job and also for your own interests. And therefore, I would like to hand over to my colleague, Clea. Clea, feel free to share your screen and your presentation. And Clea will talk with you about observatory, show you how to use it, what you find on the observatory, and give you a short guide, a short tour.
Thank you, Kathleen. Can everyone see my screen now?
Yes, we can see your screen, and it's also presentation mode.
Okay, great. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm Clea. I'm going to present today the TInnGO European Observatory for Gender Smart Mobility and also the Open Innovation Platform. So why a TInnGO European Observatory for Gender Smart Mobility? If we look at the current situation, we can see that the knowledge in the field of gender smart mobility, it's sometimes difficult to find the information and sometimes not uniformly described. And we have also few observatories that provide interaction and co-design possibilities. So this can make a bit difficult the objective of breaking down barriers in the field. As Andres said in her presentation, the TInnGO project is willing to make a long-term and sustainable change in the transport sector, specifically in the smart mobility one. And that is why we think that we need a central place for all the materials related to gender and smart mobility to make that change happen. And here in the slide, you can see some of the materials we are working on. So for instance, we have a blog page on our observatory. We have a library of reports. We have a list of scientific publications. We also have design ideas and good practice examples. And we are currently working on gender and diversity action plans and policy documents as well. So what are the objectives that we aim to achieve with this European Observatory? First of all, we want to become a community builder. So we want to bring together the key stakeholders, the national hubs, and the European citizens. We also want to help stakeholders address local issues of gender and diversity, which is being done through the national hubs. We also want people to use our TInnGO tools and training materials to fight inequalities. We want as well to provide national data to back research, and we are doing so with our open data repository. We also want to support local initiatives in gender smart mobility, and of course, co-create gender-sensitive transport innovations to drive change. And finally, of course, we want as well to boost women's engagement in the field of transport. So now let me take you to the observatory website. So here we are. As Andres said, the observatory is being fed with content by the 10 national hubs that participate in the TInnGO project. So here in this page, you can see all of them, and you can see that each one of them specializes in a topic. So for instance, you have the Scandinavian hub that is working on smart biking approaches. And while the French hub is going to focus on safety of women in new mobility forms. So here you can consult the specialization topics of each one of the hubs. As I was saying, we have a blog page that is under news. And here we add articles every week. For instance, recently we informed about the fact that the Scandinavian hub contributed to the International Transport Forum report on transport innovation and gender. And for instance, we also inform about the fact that thanks to the work of the Romanian hub, the Alba Iulia municipality has now officially adopted the European Charter for Equality of Women and Men in Local Life. So if you come to the newsroom and you are interested in a specific topic that one of the national hubs is working on, you can filter by hub. So for instance, if you're interested in women's safety and security and employment of women, you can go to the Spanish hub and it will show you all the posts related to their activities. You can also use the tag cloud to filter by subtopic. So for instance, if you are interested in bike sharing, you're going to click here and you will see all the posts related to bike. Something I also want to share to show you is that at the bottom of the page, you have the possibility to subscribe to a newsfeed here. So you will receive email notifications each time we publish a new article on the blog page. And of course, you can also share content with us by filling in the online form that you can see here, share news and content. Now, let me show you the resources page of the observatory. So here is where we make available materials that can be useful for people working in the field of gender and smart mobility. So first of all, we have a library of reports on gender and transport that I'm going to show you. The idea here is to have a library of important reports in this topic. We gather reports that have been published by key associations and key national and international organizations. So for instance, we have reports from the European Commission. And you can see here the list. And if you're interested in a specific topic, for instance, employment and education, if you click here, it will display those that match the subtopic. And I also wanted to bring your attention to this report that has been published recently in the framework of the TInnGO project. It's called Towards Inclusive Mobility, Women's Needs and Behaviors in the Paris region. It has been created by the French Hub, and it looks at the socioeconomic context of the region of Paris, and it presents the main issues with gender and mobility in the area. So here you can download it if you're interested. Let me go back to resources. The second resource that I wanted to show you is the publications list. So in the framework of the TInnGO project, we are carrying out scientific publications. Here you can see the list and you can access them if you're interested. You can also see that some project partners have participated in book chapters and even in an edited book, which is called Gender in Smart Mobilities. Now, as you can see here on the resources page as well, we are currently working on gender and diversity action plans and also training materials. So we hope to make those available very soon. So stay tuned for that. We also have an open data repository. The idea, this is an online tool that enables users to access data that is gender and diversity sensitive. And you can also upload your own data. And the tool will be explained by the next speaker, Fotis. So he will let you know more about it. And finally, we have also created an open innovation platform to channel innovative ideas. So I'm going to go back for a second to my slides. So what's the idea of the open innovation platform? What we want to do here is to build an online collaborative platform that brings together the TInnGO national hubs, the stakeholders and the European citizens. And we want to address together the challenges in the field of gender and mobility. So we have 3 objectives for the platform. The first one is to stimulate gender-sensitive transport innovations to drive change. And so we have a section called Ideas Lab. The second objective is to highlight, so to point out issues related to gender and diversity in transport and engage in a dialogue. And finally, the third objective is to showcase good practice examples that have been implemented in different countries. So just go back. I'm gonna lead you to the Open Innovation Platform. Here we are. Just to let you know, the platform, you can browse all the initiatives, you can see all the comments and the discussions and the ideas. But if you want to contribute, you have to register and to be logged in to be able to leave your feedback and interact with us. The platform is available in 6 European languages, so English, French, Spanish, Italian, German, and Portuguese. Now, let me take you to the first section of the platform, which is Ideas Lab. Here, as I already said, the section is dedicated to co-create gender-sensitive transport innovations. The 10 national hubs are holding brainstorming and co-design workshops to come up with design ideas. And they are submitting them here to gather feedback. So we are expecting your feedback on the design ideas. I'm going to show you 2 examples so that you can get an idea of the type of designs that we are sharing here.
5 minutes left.
Okay, so first of all, this one is the designer tried to create a bus stop that is user-centered. So here you can see the images of the example. She has tried to create a bus stop with different types of seats. So you have individual seats here. You also have priority seats for elders here that can be more comfortable for them, and then an outside bench as well. So as you can see on each idea that is in the Ideas Lab section, you can browse through the design images. And you can read the comments here, and you can add your own comments at the bottom of the page as well. I don't have much time, so I'm only gonna show this example. Let me go to the next section, which is discussions. So here, sorry. So the discussion section is really an online forum where we can launch different discussions around topics related to gender and mobility. So for instance, this example is we have launched a discussion about how we can make our bikes safe. There was an initiative of the Paris city to install bicycle shelters to prevent theft. And here we are trying to launch a debate to see if there are similar initiatives in other cities, and if there are better initiatives that we can replicate and adapt to other cities. So really the idea of the discussions is to engage in a dialogue and identify places where we can improve. And finally, the third section of the Open Innovation Platform is the initiatives. So here we have over 60 good practice examples that have been implemented in different countries, and they cover a wide variety of topics. So for instance, we have awareness raising campaigns, we have initiatives trying to improve safety and security, we have initiatives about education and training. So there are a lot of initiatives. You can filter by topic to find those that are of more interest to you. I'm gonna show you one example, which I think it's interesting. This is an initiative that was done in France last year. It was launched by a French association, Femmes en Mouvement. They realized that there are about 3 times less cyclists women cyclists than men in France. So they decided to invite candidates to the municipal elections of Paris to make a bicycle trip in real conditions, to see so that they would become aware of all the barriers that women experiment when they are trying to cycle in the cities. So it was a very successful initiative. that I wanted to highlight. And as you can see, all the good practice examples that we share have an overview with the location, the year, the association or the organization that launched them. And then you also have a paragraph about the background, the goal, the measure, and the outcome. And finally, I just want to show you very briefly, once you have registered to the Open Innovation Platform, which I hope you will do after this webinar, you can see all the platform users here. So you can search by name or by surname, and if we have indicated our contact details, which is the case for most of us, you can contact us by email or reach out to us on LinkedIn. So this is everything I wanted to show you. I would like to end my presentation by encouraging you to really engage in a dialogue with us and register to the Open Innovation Platform and leave your feedback on the design ideas so that we can continue to develop them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Clea, for your presentation and for the little tour through the observatory. Regarding the observatory, I think it would be a good idea to ask you 2 more questions via poll. The first question will be, would you be willing to contribute with your ideas to the observatory? You have, again, 30 to 40 seconds to answer. And it's a good indicator for us to know what we can change or what we should change, and also a good start for the Q&A session at the end of the meeting. Okay, nothing's moving now, so I'm going to end the poll. Seconds. Okay, and share with you the results. Hope you can see it. So it's a positive feedback so far. So yes, you would be willing. That's great, and we hope that in the future that you will realize that. And I'm not sure. Okay, 21. Maybe there are some questions left that we can answer in the Q&A round in order to figure out what we can do different to motivate you to participate and to put data and information on the observatory. And therefore, I have another question for you. I'll give you again 30 seconds to answer. Leave you 10 more seconds. Okay, I'm going to end the poll and share the results. Glad that this result came out. I think all of the project members are also relieved to see that it meets their expectations so far. But of course, there are also some more ideas that we can discuss later on. So feel free to ask your questions or add any ideas in the Q&A session at the end of the meeting. Okay, then I'm going to stop to share the results and hand over to Fotis Leotopoulos so that he can start his presentation on how to find and share open datasets on the Gender Smart Mobility Repository. So Fotis, you can, yeah, it's already working, perfect. Presentation mode is on, and yeah, then please, you can start.
Okay, I hope you can hear me. Good afternoon, everyone.
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, I'm Fotis Leotopoulos. I'm the general manager of Boeing.net, an ICT SME from Greece that develops applications and systems in the transport domain, and that's what we do in the TInnGO project. We have developed a number of tools as data coordinators of the project, and today I'm going to present you two tools, two of those that we believe will differentiate the observatory, the TInnGO Observatory from others. The first one is our open data repository, specific for the TInnGO project for gender diversity material for the transport sector, and transport innovation in particular. The second tool is going to be the survey system that we developed. We believe it is based on a crowdsourcing approach, so it's methodology and uses also incentivization, and it's a methodology that we believe will offer a means of collecting data with sustainability, which is very absolutely necessary property that the observatory has to have. So the first one, the first tool is the open data repository. I'm going to switch to, I hope you see now, switch to the observatory webpage, where if you go under resources, you will see also our introductory video, which I'm going to play. It's a 7-minute video. Oh, sorry, it's a 7-minute video. I'm going to just play the first 1 or so minutes.
Welcome to the TInnGO Open Data Repository. The TInnGO Open Data Repository, TODR, is a global repository for gender-related data collections in the transport sector, such as gender-related citizen mobility, transport safety and security, surveys, research outcomes, etc. The TODR is used to store large volumes of gender-related transport data, acquired from 10 national hubs of a pan-European gender observatory of the Horizon 2020 TInnGO project, www.TInnGO.eu. However, any other contributors of relevant such datasets are invited and welcome to contribute. Only anonymized or pseudonymized contributions can be uploaded after registration. Data access is free, respecting license terms and conditions. The TInnGO ODR is registered in ray3data.org, the global registry of research data repositories. Visitor access to the TInnGO ODR is open and free for all.
As a visitor of the ODR, you have free access to the public open data contents of the
So I'll stop the video here. It's 5-6 more minutes. I hope you visit the page of the observatory and go to the resources subpage and view the video and listen to it, and eventually also use the observatory to upload or download your data. So I'm switching back to the presentation. So here's how you visit the Open Data Observatory repository. Sorry, as it was mentioned in the video, the TInnGO ODR, as we call it, TODR, is listed in the Pan-European Registry of Research Data Repositories, ray3data.org. It has 2 entry points, as you can see here. One for visitors, which is open access. You don't have to have access credentials, and another for contributors, where you have to have access credentials, login, username, and password. This is how the open access page looks like. On the left panel, there is a facility. There's a text search option, or based on subject or data type, or by country. You can produce a list of the data entries that you're interested in, and by pressing the magnifying glass here, you can view the specific data collection that you may be interested in. Each data collection is presented like this. It contains the name and contributor, an identifier that globally identifies this data collection, and then 3 sections. first one is about the people, the creators, copyright holders, contacts, and contributors. The second is some information about the data, some attributes about the data collection, like the title, description, keyword, subject, temporal and geographical coverage, the collection methodology, description, language, other resources, licensing type, and other information that perhaps have to be shared. The third part is where the actual data files are that you may download, and you're free to download them. If you wish to contribute, and we urge you to do so, you have to enter through the contributors page, where you have to first ask us for access credentials, for username and password. And we do that in order to have a better control of what gets uploaded to the repository. This is how it looks like when you enter as a contributor. You can, the ODR supports various levels of accessing, administrative and simple user. It supports organizations, and each organization can be managed by its own supervisor, which has full control over the organization's users and resources. The ODR administrator is the one that manages all organizations and users and data collections. So if you are an administrative person, then you also see this, this administrative panel option. Otherwise, as a simple user, you only see the first three options. Your main option is the resource manager, where as a user, as a contributing user, you see all your uploads. Some of them may be in saved mode, or saved means that it's temporarily saved, not fully deposited yet, or fully deposited. When you want to create and upload the data collection, what you do is you simply press this button. Now, the first thing that you do before your first upload, you have to make sure that you read through the legal stuff, the legal terms and conditions, and also we have some guidelines that you need to know in order to prepare your data collection, to have everything ready in order to upload it. The uploading is a 5-step process. First one is just to accept by clicking on the box to accept the terms and conditions. The second is about defining the people, specifying the people who are the creators or the copyright holders or the contact person and the contributors. The third step is about providing the information about properties of the data collection itself, like title, description, subjects, temporal geographical coverage, resources, licensing type, country, and so on. The third step, it's the step where you upload your data. The data collection can consist of a number of files, support up to 20 files. These can be zip files, PDFs, doc, text files, Excel files. All of them are passed through antivirus control check, and for each file, you have to specify the content type, description, and the license type. We'll provide a number of license types, and you feel free to select whichever fits your purpose best. The final step is depositing your data collection. You just confirm that you accept all the terms and conditions, and then you are assigned a persistent identifier which uniquely identifies your data collection. We have a video that you just heard the first minute describing the Open Data Repository, as well as a user guide, which is available online, and as you can download it also as a PDF file. So this is the first part, my first presentation. The second one is about another tool, our transport surveys. So an observatory needs, we believe it needs to conduct survey campaigns for different purposes, for evaluation studies, to get citizen feedback, or on behalf of transport stakeholders. And that relates to its sustainability as well. We all know that it's hard to get statistically enough, an adequate number of responses, because if you want to do that by outsourcing, that costs money, time, and a lot of effort. And also the generic survey platforms and tools that are out there, that are not transport specific, they're not easy to customize for the transport sector. Our system, the TInnGO survey system, has several advantages over the other platforms. First of all, it's multilingual in 12 languages, and it's very easy to launch a campaign in all 12 languages. Just translate the text, and automatically it's launched in all languages. It's transport specific, so it supports different travel modes and sub-questionnaires and so on, of course GDPR compliant. It is written so that it's a tool that supports all TInnGO national hubs uniformly. Another very innovative, we believe, property is that it exploits crowdsourcing with incentivization for in order to get high yield, and I'll let you know later on how this is happening. It also provides dynamic monitoring of the survey campaign while it's active, and in this way you can shift the campaign, the survey, to other groups that are perhaps less represented during the execution of the campaign. And also it supports interfaces, it's flexible in supporting interfaces with external survey systems. This is how the web tool looks like. The entry page, the second page, as soon as you start filling in the process of filling in a questionnaire, you can select a certain campaign just for GDPR purposes. You check these boxes, and then you continue filling in the survey as you normally do. The second way, which we believe it's innovative, and it may provide higher yield in surveys, is through an application that we have developed in Boeing. In Boeing, we have a GPS navigator, which is a global offline navigator. It's a very interesting, useful tool that we expect people to use it more and more from now on, and we expect to raise a big community globally. Now, in this tool, you see that functionality, it has a rich functionality, and among this functionality, there is a survey tool, a survey button. We expect to raise a community of a lot of people who, at some point, using the application on their smartphone, they will see this button popping up indicating that there is a survey available for them. And we provide them incentivization to do that, to answer the survey by different means. I'll say more in the next slide. So
4 minutes left.
I'm on time, thank you. So you can use the same surveys that are launched over the web interface, and the same one are launched through the application as well. The advantage here is that in the application, the user profile is always available. The user doesn't have to answer profile questions, and there is a rich profile that is very useful for studies about gender and diversity that TInnGO is interested in. Here are some screenshots of how a typical survey looks like. You see that transport sector is is well defined with supporting different transport modes and so on. So in the rightmost here, this is the final screenshot. You can see that the user is rewarded with some digital virtual currency. So this is the incentivization that the user has in order to provide their answers. And when they get this virtual currency, they can exchange it with different offers. So people have to gain something by answering the questionnaires that we're offering them. So we believe that this is an innovative approach in getting higher yields from our survey campaigns. And believe me, this is necessary because if the observatory is to launch several survey campaigns, it's hard to persuade people to keep answering, to keep providing responses to questionnaires over and over again. If you give them some incentive, they might be willing to do it. And this is what we did actually in the latest survey that we launched in all 10 national hubs. We received more than 2,000 responses from our TInnGO survey system. Our goal was to exceed 400 per hub. And we achieved that goal in most hubs. This is the end of my presentation. Just in conclusion, I presented two of the tools that we have developed for TInnGO, for the TInnGO project. Their goal is for both of them to empower the TInnGO Observatory and to support the operation and the sustainability of the observatory and of the 10 national hubs, even after the TInnGO project is over. The first one, the Open Data Repository, TODR, and our Dynamic Transport Survey System. Thank you for listening, and that's it. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Fotis, for your presentation and your little tour through the repository and what's possible with it. I think it's similar to what we end with the observatory. I would like to ask you a question, the last one for today, and we'll offer it right now. Please, I will give you at least 30 to 40 seconds to answer. Would you also be willing to contribute data to the repository? Okay. 10 more seconds. Then I will close the poll. Okay, thank you very much. I will share with you the results. Here we go. Again, very positive, but also some who prefer not to answer. That's okay for us, but also some who said, okay, I would like to discuss this further. And I think the best option for that would be right now, because now we are starting with our Q&A session, which is moderated by Andre. So, so far we only have 1 or 2 questions in the chat. Andre, would you like to start with the Q&A session?
Okay, thank you very much. As Fotis has just finished his presentation, do we have any questions relating to the use of the data repository, or perhaps reasons why people may contribute or may not contribute to it? No, don't be shy. Fotis, what's the overhead for people who wish to contribute any of their data to this repository? Is it going to take them a long time to register and fill in the forms?
No, actually, as I said, the first step would be to register with us. We will provide them login and password within the next few hours. It takes less than a day. The next step is for them to enter the platform, just read the initial instructions and see how they should prepare, what kind of information they should prepare about the data collection, how to prepare their files. Basically, zip all of them in a zip file. That's a typical thing that they need to do. And then, as soon as they start, it takes from 15 minutes to 20 minutes. Even if you are not familiar with the platform, it will probably take you no more than 20 minutes to complete the upload of your collection.
Can I access the data sets that are there already without logging on as a contributor?
Yes, the platform is open. It's an open data repository, so it's open for accessing, for downloading any data that anybody wishes, without having to ask for a login and password. Yeah.
And we're inviting other projects to put in their data into this?
Yes, I mean the data, the ODR is not only for the TInnGO project. It accepts data from other projects as well, from other third parties, as long as the data is relevant to transport innovation regarding gender and diversity, and the subject, the vertical subject of the TInnGO project.
Okay, and you're not just talking about quantitative data here, but qualitative as well? So suitably anonymized interview data.
Well, the data repository is mostly for raw data sets.
Mm-hmm.
It could be responses to questionnaires, but the raw data, not processed data, not graphs, not reports.
Yeah.
Reports and like PDF files with processed data are more fitted to the observatory, to Transport Observatory website that Clea has described earlier. We have a place for that as well, but the TODR is mainly for raw data.
Yeah, well, interview transcripts would be raw data.
Anything that's of course they have to be, as you pointed out, also anonymized or pseudonymized, so they should be GDPR compliant. They shouldn't lead in any way to an individual. So people must be careful about that. We don't screen whatever is uploaded very, tediously in detail. But of course, if we notice something, if something is pointed to us regarding some data set that's not appropriate to be on the data repository, then we do take it down.
Mm-hmm. So if we take an intersectional approach to this, any data could be uploaded onto the database as long as it has some sort of socio-demographic information in it. So like age.
Yes, I mean it's if someone looks at the TInnGO project and what it does, then anything related to that is inapplicable for an upload.
Okay, thank you.
And we also have other questions from the chat. I just posted one.
Yeah, perhaps we can all think about this. Obviously, it is a very big issue for all projects, what happens at the end of it. We are committed to keeping this alive. Obviously, we've invested a lot of time and effort into developing the data repository in our tools, and we don't want to see them die. We do have a work stream which is looking at this and horizon checking to see what opportunities there are in terms of EU funding, and also looking at other business models. perhaps housing this in a university might be one of the easiest things. But any ideas on this, we are more than welcome to receive. Does anyone have any questions for Claire in terms of the Open Innovation Platform or the observatory in general? Is there anything else anyone would expect to see on the observatory that we're currently missing? So Claire, if I was a citizen and I went onto the observatory and I had a really good idea, or perhaps not such a good idea, but I would like to have designers working on it, how could I actually engage with the TInnGO designers?
You will go to the Open Innovation Platform, register online, which takes really 2 minutes. And then you will be able to share your idea either on the Ideas Lab if you already have some drawings that you have done, or for instance, if you haven't already designed something but you have an idea about what you want to do, you can launch it on the discussion section, and then the designers of the TInnGO project can work to develop that idea.
Thank you. How are we encouraging other people to participate in the Open Innovation Platform?
Currently, the TInnGO national hubs are organizing different brainstorming and co-design workshops with using Mural, in which they try to identify different aspects which need innovation.
Mm-hmm.
And the designers try to gather all those ideas, and they are trying to present some initial designs to share on the platform. And then we are asking stakeholders and citizens to comment on the ideas that are available on the platform.
Oops. Okay, thank you. I do see a question in some chat window that I wasn't aware actually existed. So Paul, I think you're answering this, are you? Paul is our design manager. In terms of the design feedback, as you can see at the moment, we're in our infancy in terms of working on this, but the designers will come back to you and discuss any ideas or critiques of their designs, and then this will go forward into an iterative process. So the designs you see at in the Open Innovation Platform at the moment aren't actually the finished versions of it. They're what we call design provocations, trying to get people engaged in discussion about gender and diversity smart issues in a different way. Rather than just reporting, let's try and communicate through sketches. And you will see in the Open Innovation Platform, some of the more academic members of the team did try and actually provide sketches on the bus stops. And even though we can't draw as a designer would, you're trying to engage a different part of your brain, so ideas flowing slightly differently. And we think maybe it's a way of engaging people in a different manner. I don't know if Paul's still around to answer this.
Yes, I'm here. I'm here.
Hi, Paul.
Hi.
Okay.
Yeah, I would completely agree with that, and I would reinforce it that it doesn't have to be something which is sketched beautifully or made to look real. It's the thought, it's the idea, it's the trying to express the experience that will make something better for a large group of people. And we would love to get into the conversation about how that is based on somebody's experience or something they've witnessed, or just really if there was a great idea and they may not necessarily be able to show it, but you can probably talk to us about it, and we can pick up on the subtleties and the nuances of the things you're telling us about. So yeah, very keen to be talking to people about their ideas.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions? Maybe for Hilda, in terms of the core concepts of the project? Hilda, do you want to make a closing statement? You're muted, Hilda.
I was just trying to write down a question also for you and your colleagues at Coventry University, because you talk about design, but what about, you know, turning it into a business model and, you know, innovation, real, you know, innovating real stuff? Do you have any proposals for how this could happen, or is it beyond the design activities?
There are many routes through this. Paul, do you want to try and answer this one?
I can probably answer it partly, but not completely, Hilda. So perhaps one of the examples is in terms of the nurture pod, which is one of the designs that we've shown on the Open Innovation platform. Because we recognized that was a new concept, a new aesthetic, and a new way of approaching the problem, we realized that it was a protectable asset. So we've registered that design. And that's one of the things that we'll go through. And if we identify areas of potential intellectual property in some of the ideas or some of the developments, they can be protected. And there are possibilities of looking for later funding or investment, or trying to spin those kind of things out into companies. So it's sort of a yes, in theory, it's possible, but it's part of a much more complex business entity, if you want to approach it that way. And if it was maybe a sequence of things together, that's probably a stronger argument. But yeah, we're definitely keeping our eyes open for any new IP that we can protect.
I have got some ideas with the rotors, but we can discuss that later. But it has become one of my really heartlands here in this project. But in terms of, I mean, intersectional analysis, and I mean, some of you might think, oh, what is this about? Isn't it just academic jam? But I would say that the European Union, and if you look into their equality policies, strategies, and all that, they talk about intersectionality and intersectional politics. So I think it's very clever to keep on this track. But as you can see, it's also complex. But this is also the exciting thing about the TInnGO project, that we don't know where we end, so to speak. I mean, it's an explorative project, and we are, I mean, trying to find our way in a complex, you know, along various roads, but also in complex ways of thinking. And I think that is also what is needed in many, many corners of transport and mobility policies and planning and all that, I mean, very often they take the easiest way, and the easiest way is the well-known way. So, yeah, that's my comment.
Okay, thank you. There is another question around design thinking and prototyping. Obviously, we have to be very careful here in terms of what we do make public, because as soon as it becomes public, we lose the IP on it.
Yeah.
So sometimes there is a filter, perhaps, in what we are going to be putting on the Open Innovation platform. Paul, can you shed a bit more light on this?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. So as you say, we do filter some of the artwork that's produced, and in some cases it's more that we will pull out small elements and see if they can be protected. So generally, I don't think we would say we would protect an entire design or entire concept as an intellectual property asset. We might pick out small pieces. So even though we're doing that, we are still able to show lots of great ideas, but there just might be some subtle areas that we're holding back slightly until we know they've been protected. And as soon as there is a, again, as an example of the nature part, as soon as there is a design registration number, we can then disclose all of the artwork or the visuals because it's protected. Yeah. So it's just about being mindful that, you know, there are potentially some very interesting things in there. and it's one of those things that big projects develop an awful lot of potential intellectual property, and this project is definitely producing lots of really interesting things. So we just have to be a little bit careful and just approach it in a sensible and a pragmatic way. We want people to be learning about it. We want to share everything, but it would be a little bit short-sighted if we didn't protect the real value in some of those small ideas. But ultimately, it all still gets put out there.
Excuse me, I saw that Louisa Marolda had a question about, cooperating with other, similar observatories.
Are you asking me?
Oh, hi, Christina. Sorry, I was just looking.
Yeah, Christina, sorry, I called you Louisa, sorry.
Well, I am in a consortium that is dealing with exclusion, vulnerable to exclusion people. And the idea is to have all the data collected that are also gender disaggregated. So I think it could create a number of data that could be very useful to be shared in your database. But I cannot decide that on my own. So I have to share this information of what you're doing to the other partners and see if it is possible to have some common information, to share the data, and maybe also have a look into your data set. Data collection, data repository could be extremely useful to get a little bit more deeper in what the project is doing. So that's why I think there is ground for collaboration and for using similar data, but I have to check it with the others.
Yeah, I think we should move along this road and try to find out about similar collections and also how the European Union could be involved in, the continuing work of this. Yeah,
that's the point, because to continue having all this amount of work done by individual projects and that everything finishes with the project, and no continuation and no further use of all the knowledge gathered with a lot of money and a lot of effort is really a pity. So that's why I think that making a common effort could also bring some more institutional operator to continue this set of knowledge.
Yeah, we have tried to reach out to other projects, but sometimes they are very protective of their data. And also, we're all collecting small parts of a bigger picture. And maybe we are reluctant to show and share just the little bit of data that we have. But until we start doing this, we're never going to move forward. And the data is getting lost. It's probably in a deliverable or an appendix to a deliverable, and nobody's going to be using it. So we have to try and find a way of making it more apparent, more visible, and more usable for people. With regard to the question on the screen at the moment, we are doing a very large survey at the moment. Can anybody talk about what is included in that survey?
Yeah, perhaps.
Fotis, I heard someone say perhaps, and I didn't.
Yeah, I said perhaps, I don't know, Clea might want to say something, or is it?
I think I'm not the best place to answer the question.
Okay, we do have a very large survey at the moment, which we're trying to conduct across our hubs, and maybe some of that will be dealing with the issues that you've raised. They're obviously very important to us. Unfortunately, I don't think there's anyone in the group from that work package at the moment.
Hello, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm here.
Ah, okay.
Sorry. Yeah, I'm seeing the question now. Yeah, we have a large survey that is currently being distributed, as many of you said, and many of the things that are addressed here by Angela are in our survey. So times of travel, mode of transport use with different destination purposes, with purpose, of course, gender, ethnicity. So different aspects of intersectionality. We're trying to gather different groups of the population of these cities and trying to characterize these groups according to their mobility needs and mobility needs and options they have available. Yeah, with our survey, we hope to respond to all of these things that you propose here.
So maybe just the last one question from Ava, and then we should come to an end, and maybe Andrea would like to say some concluding words.
If you like, I can say something about the EIGE thing. Yes, indeed, we have approached EIGE, and personally, I've been involved in several projects over the last 10 years, and where we have tried to approach EIGE, but they seem to be a bit reluctant about putting too much emphasis on mobility. And this is also one of the clues of, I think, this project, that we have been looking, I mean, in gender studies, a lot on family, a lot on work, but not how to get from A to B. Mm-hmm. And I definitely think that we should consider EIGE once more, and also try to approach them if any other possibilities are not available. Because I think we have done, we have accomplished a lot, and, collected data, whatever you have heard about it today. And I think it's really, really too valuable just to disappear after the project is concluded here this year. So thanks for reminding us about this possibility.
Just wondering if Mrs. Eva Kaili, which is a Greek member of the European Parliament. I'm not sure if she wants to let us know, but just wondering.
No,
no. Okay. Okay, sorry.
Okay, so if there are not any more questions, I'd like to conclude the webinar and thank all our speakers. I'd also like to invite you all to look at the observatory and to put data in the repository as well, and to keep in contact with the project throughout the next year, and hopefully after that as well, to help us be a success, and actually really use the information that we're providing on the observatory, because there is a lot of information in there, and this is the one place it's being collected at the moment. So thank you all once again. We will be providing slides tomorrow, I think it is. You'll be able to have a slide set, and this is being recorded, so it will be on one of our social media channels. So thank you very much. Thank you all for attending and for your questions, and thank you to our contributors. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, Kathleen. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.